Waha! Yes, you thought it was gone, and I thought it was gone. But the ever-flowing mug of liquid sustenance, i.e., in this case, water, knew that it had not vanished, that it was simply pushed to the bottom of my many tasks as I am in the process of putting on Evil Expo and, of course, writing the cookbook. Yes, it is a Dark Lord's Villainpunk take on Peter's Evil Overlord list. And here I am, once again, at the Evil Overlord list, scrolling to the top 100 things I'd do if I became an Evil Overlord. 4. Shooting. Oh, for heaven's sake! I told you to be silent! One moment. Ahem. I'm just going to talk into this phone, and that will hopefully punish it to the point where it will stop bothering us. Him. When are you free? Question mark. Now, hopefully, it has been appeased and will no longer seek a piece of my brain because it knows that I have put it aside, and I will not be forced to distract myself through its many beeping noises. Very well. Shooting is not too good for my enemies. Discuss. Well, really, we're just talking about a basic utilitarian argument here. I mean, how many enemies? How many bullets? I fear that some of my references are Cold War, but with certain messages about recent public challenges and some of the shortages that we've been facing here in America, I'm reminded of a story told to me in Yiddish, which I do not speak except to understand jokes, which is, of course, the superpower of most highly autistic monsters of my particular sort. A man is waiting in line, in a bread line, for bread. And he's waiting. He's waiting. He's halfway through the line. He's been there for 4 hours. And then he is suddenly told, BAM! The bread line closes. The window slams down. There is no more bread. The man says, What? This is ridiculous. The system stinks. The system is broken. I am a veteran. I am a worker. Yet I cannot get bread. What is wrong here? A large gentleman who had been lounging near the bread line, but not on it. A gentleman in a sort of a trench coat said, Comrade, Tovarish, ease yourself. Relax. This is not the way to behave. Remember what would have happened in the old days. And he takes his fingers and he makes the finger gun. And he goes, So, oi. The man goes back to his wife. And his wife looks at his empty hands and says, Are they out of bread? The man says, Even worse. They're out of bullets! Shooting is actually too good for many of my enemies. Look, we come back to the same idea that, yes, our conceptions of what heroism is are formed by the one time in every 50, in every 100, that a hero escapes rightful punishment and goes off to write a book about it, or the hero doesn't escape rightful punishment. Zack Snyder, I'm looking at 300 here. And they still write him up as having survived somehow, because it makes a better story. And for heaven's sake, guys, most of the time, when you have captured your enemy, searched your enemy, imprisoned your enemy, locked up your enemy, that's really it for your enemy. I get that your enemy is like MacGyver, but still, you're not an idiot yourself. Most enemies do not escape unless you want them to escape, or unless you want them to have a sporting chance. There's no reason. Do you know what an oubliette is? I'm not very good at drawing, but an oubliette goes something like this. Hold on a second. It's basically like a pear. It's like a very sinister kind of pear. One sec. I'm going to just finish drawing this person's body, sort of. This is an oubliette! Notice how the chute to put the person in the oubliette requires that you sort of squish the person in, and then they get in very uncomfortably. You sort of smoosh the head in. And then they can't get out because they're not supposed to get out. It's an oubliette! I mean, shooting is not too good for your enemies. It's true. It is preferable to have shot enemies than to have uncertain enemies. It is preferable to have shot enemies than to have, possibly escaped enemies. But it's not necessarily preferable to have shot enemies than to have enemies who have a 99.87% chance of spending the rest of their lives being tortured, signing statements explaining why they were wrong, going on publicity tours explaining why you are the true Overlord, providing you with plenty of tears for your cocktails. Shooting is one answer to your enemies. It's a very decent, basic answer to your enemies. It's a little like saying, microwaving is not too good for my popcorn. Well, it's not. Microwaving is a very effective way of dealing with popcorn. You will still get better popcorn if you use a higher quality popcorn and use a popcorn popper and you put it over a fire. Not everyone has that luxury. You will probably have more of a mess. You'll have to clean more stuff up. But I think the popcorn tastes significantly better. It's just there's more effort and more work involved. The idea that shooting is too good for your enemies because you're stupid, because you don't realize there's a chance your enemies escape, well, that's just dumb. That's loser think, as Scott Adams would say. Shooting is not too good for your enemies. It's just that there are many circumstances under which lives of torture, pain, regret, and being forced to deny and abnegate everything they've done in life is also not too good for your enemies and is of considerably more satisfaction. It's just the fact that, there's a risk-reward ratio. You shoot them, they're dead, there's no real risk that they're going to come back in the sequel as sassy sidekicks. I mean, depending on who your director is. But you don't shoot them, you leave them in an impossible trap. The only reason they escape is because some writer has written and escaped the impossible trap. This happens all the time in movies and pretty much never in actual impossible traps. Just, check the history of impossible traps, or check all the people who were entombed in the Great Pyramid, or for that matter, London frickin' Bridge. Shooting is not too good for my enemies, but there are other high-yield options for my enemies that I would find preferable, and suggesting that it is merely a matter of whether or not shooting is the only good option is to oversimplify a much more complicated and a much more interesting problem. I raise a glass to you. Thank you. I'm the Dark Lord Jeff Mach. You can see my work on Amazon, and I will see you at evilexpo.com this February. Goodbye, friends.